Bonjour, bienvenue à toutes et à tous, bienvenue à notre rendez-vous quotidien en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mardi 10 novembre. J'ai quelques annonces à vous faire avant de passer à vos questions pour ce rendez-vous qui sera court car nous devons laisser la place à la vice-présidente exécutive Margrethe Vestager qui viendra à 12h30 vous présenter un cas de concurrence. Et je commence en vous annonçant que le discours que la présidente donne aux ambassadeurs de l'Union européenne et qui est censé débuter à midi est diffusé en direct sur EBS. Vous avez donc le choix entre suivre le rendez-vous de midi ou le discours de la présidente qui sera bien entendu ensuite publié aussi. Ensuite, en ce qui concerne l'agenda du collège de demain, tout d'abord, le collège adoptera un ensemble de mesures qui constituent un pas en avant vers une véritable Union européenne de la santé. Et suite à l'annonce qui a été faite hier par Pfizer-BioNTech sur les perspectives concernant leur vaccin, j'ai le plaisir de vous annoncer qu'à l'ordre du jour du collège, il y a demain l'adoption de l'accord avec cette entreprise. La présidente von der Leyen fera une déclaration à la presse à ce sujet, donc sur ce paquet santé, après la réunion du collège. Et cette déclaration sera suivie du compte-rendu de la réunion du collège et d'une conférence de presse par la commissaire Madame Stella Kyriakides. Les membres du collège discuteront également de deux autres dossiers. La toute première stratégie européenne pour les personnes LGBTIQ, qui sera formellement adoptée jeudi et qui vous sera présentée ce jour-là par la vice-présidente Vera Jourova et la commissaire Dalli en salle de presse. Et un nouvel agenda pour protéger les consommateurs qui sera adopté formellement vendredi. Il vous sera présenté par la vice-présidente Vera Jourova et le commissaire Didier Reynders, vendredi également, en salle de presse. Je passe maintenant à une mise à jour de l'agenda de la présidente pour aujourd'hui, mais sur laquelle j'ai déjà eu l'occasion de publier un tweet hier. Comme vous le savez, donc, le président Macron organise cet après-midi à 15h une vidéoconférence sur une réponse européenne au terrorisme à l'Élysée. La présidente von der Leyen y participera, aux côtés du président du Conseil européen Charles Michel, de la chancelière allemande Angela Merkel, du chancelier autrichien Sebastian Kurz et du Premier ministre des Pays-Bas, Mark Rutte. La présidente participera également à la conférence de presse qui clôturera cette rencontre et qui est organisée par le Palais de l'Élysée. And finally, today, sad news reached us from Palestine concerning the death of Saeb Erekat, who was the chief Palestinian negotiator. We would like to pay tribute to Mr. Erekat's contribution to the peace process and his tireless work in trying to fulfill the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people. We express our deep sympathies to the family of Mr. Erekat and to Palestinian people. And with this, we are now ready to take your questions. And I start with Patrizia. Patrizia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning. Patrizia Antonini with ANSA Press Agency. The field is COVID, and I have three questions. So basically, if tomorrow this deal with Pfizer-BioNTech is on the agenda of the College of Commissioners, and they do adopt it, is there a procedure that needs to be followed in order to say that the deal is done, or once it's adopted by the college, there is the deal? This is the first question. Then I would like to know what is the state of play of the joint purchase of rapid antigen tests. I saw President von der Leyen tweet this morning, and consequently, I would like to understand if it will be recognized by all the member states. So what is the state of play on this debate, which is ongoing, as we all know? And the last question is about the national plans on vaccinations, on vaccines. I remember Commissioner Kyriakides saying that the Commission had asked the member states to come up with these national plans, and I would like to know if they are in, and if they are all in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the first point, I will pass the well on your 3 points. In fact, I will pass the floor to Stefan.
Thank you very much, Patrizia. First question: do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, very good. On the announcement that Eric just made with regard to the contract with the company BioNTech and Pfizer, the procedure that has to be followed depends a little bit on the type of contracts. I cannot explain to you at this stage what type of contract we are talking about, because this is exactly one of the things that is part of tomorrow's discussions. But basically, for information, you have two types of contracts where member states have 5 working days to opt out, and then contracts which are immediately concluded and where member states can at a later stage decide whether or not they will participate in this contract. But so the procedure to be followed depends a little bit on the type of contract. At this stage, I don't think I can give you more information on that. With regard to the rapid antigen tests, you know that the President announced on the 23rd of October that the European Union would support member states with the purchase of these rapid antigen tests. We're mobilizing 100 million from the emergency support instrument to directly purchase 15 to 22 million rapid tests and to distribute them to the member states. The Commission has issued a call on the 6th of November for interested companies to submit their offers by the deadline of the 16th of November. These offers will be evaluated, and the awarding of the contract and orders for the tests should be made before the end of November. In addition, as was also announced, the Commission will launch a joint procurement for rapid antigen tests in the course of the month. And we call on member states and neighboring countries to participate. With regard to your third point, the vaccination plans, we have indeed adopted 2 weeks ago, no, a few more weeks ago, our recommendations helping member states with the adoption of the vaccination strategies with the deployment of these vaccines. As also indicated by Commissioner Kyriakides, we continue we are in contact with the member states to discuss the state of play, as was also announced earlier on. So we follow the state of play of these plans with the member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Let us stay on the issue of vaccination and the health situation in general. Please only keep your hand raised if your question relates to this for the moment. I see many hands raised. Patrizia, I see you have a follow-up. Patrizia.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I couldn't understand from Stefan's answer whether the national plans are in or not. And the second thing I couldn't understand is if the member states are recognizing these antigen rapid tests, because if they do not recognize them, I mean, why do we buy them? Thank you.
Stefan.
Yeah, well, I think on the plans, I can only reiterate what I said before, which is that we are coordinating with the member states, and as far and following up with the member states, the state of play in line with our recommendations. As far as the rapid antigen test is, we have called on member states to participate in the joint procurement that we would like to launch for these rapid antigen tests, so that we can actually indeed launch the purchase of such tests. But I think I'll have to leave it at that at this stage.
Thank you. Other questions related to the health situation? Only keep your hand raised if it is the case. So, Lawrence, you have a question on this.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, just to be clear, so will this contract actually, pending the college's approval, be signed tomorrow? And can you tell us, I mean, what was the delay here? We've been asking questions to officials for weeks about this and being told, oh, they're still in negotiations, and then bang, bing, the moment Pfizer announced their results, the president comes out and says, oh yeah, we're signing a contract with them. So can you tell us what took so long?
Thank you. I pass the floor to Stefan.
We do not comment on the negotiations themselves, how the negotiations were held, what were stumbling blocks or no stumbling blocks. We do not comment on that. I can only refer to the fact that we had concluded with BioNTech Pfizer on the 9th of September the exploratory talks, where we had agreed with them on making available 300 million of doses. This was the starting point for the launch of the negotiations. It was very important, and it is very important for us that we come to negotiations, that we come to successful contracts with the different companies with whom we are having these negotiations. We will be in a position to announce more tomorrow, which is, I think, good news. But as to why and how things have taken a lot of time or not a lot of time, this is obviously something on which we cannot comment. Thank you.
Yeah, Lawrence, let me just add, the fact that it is on the agenda of the college tomorrow is not linked to the announcement yesterday. That must be absolutely clear. Okay, other questions on, Lawrence, you have a follow-up.
Yeah, I do, just because Stefan didn't answer my question. Sorry, just to be clear, when will this contract be signed? Will it be signed tomorrow? Will it be complete tomorrow? And can you just be clear? Are you saying that this deal was basically essentially wrapped up, ready to sign before Pfizer made their announcement yesterday?
Lawrence, you're a very experienced Brussels reporter. You know how this house works. I mean, you know that we have procedures in place and that we have to go through the procedures for something to make its way to the college agenda. And this is exactly what happened in this case. On your first question as to the exact signature, I mean, I'm not a complete expert, but my understanding is that you first have to have an agreement by the college on the deal which is on the table. And then, as Stefan said in his answer to Patricia, we send this to member states so that member states basically decide how and what quantities they want to buy from the contract. And there are different formulas, as Stefan explained, and it's at the end of that process that everything is finalized. So tomorrow's decision is basically key in terms of setting the conditions under which member states will then be able to buy the vaccines according to their needs. Stefan, correct me if I've stepped outside the boundaries.
Eric, you have spoken wisely. That is absolutely correct. Tomorrow, the college will adopt the decision whether or not to go ahead with a contract, and then we will see how this decision is translated in actual contractual work, as we have done with all the contracts up to now.
Okay, Norman, so this is a spokesman looking for promotion, very clearly. But basically it means that the conditions are set by the decision which is taken tomorrow. The rest is then the paperwork that needs to be done based on the actual needs expressed by member states. Okay, I remind you that we will have to stop at 12:30. Are there other questions on health? Rafaela, is it a question on this issue? Please press speak. The sources of your microphone does not seem to be working, or you have your... No, yes, it's working now. Go ahead.
Does it work? Okay, sorry. Again, a question on vaccines, if I may. There were news coming from Hungary already last Friday, if I'm right. The Hungarian foreign minister confirmed that Hungary negotiates with Russia to acquire the license of the Russian vaccine. So I'm just wondering, does this comply with EU regulation? As far as I remember, so a vaccine produced or distributed in a member state always has to be confirmed by the European Medicines Agency. Am I right? Or could you maybe elaborate a bit on that?
Stéphane.
Okay, thank you very much for this question, Rafaela. Well, there are several procedures, several routes to the recognition or the authorization of a vaccine on the European market. We have the centralized approach, which is followed, in which case the European Medicines Agency gives its approach, its green light, which is then followed, if the Commission follows it at least, by an authorization to put the vaccine on the market. This is the case. This is even a mandatory procedure for all vaccines that use biotechnology. This is actually the case for all the vaccines that are under the portfolio of the European vaccine strategy that we are currently implementing. In some cases where we are dealing with vaccine which does not use these biotechnological components, there is a possibility to follow national authorization procedure. Now, when it comes to the approach of that to follow with regard to vaccine candidates, the member states have all strongly endorsed the Commission's EU vaccine strategy, which calls for a coordinated approach and not a fragmented approach. And so we believe that it's important that we can ensure this coordinated approach by having negotiations with a set of vaccine developers to come to a, again, coordinated approach of contracts here. We also believe that it's very important that we can guarantee the safety of the vaccines, which is one of the reasons why the road to have an authorization through the European Medicines Agency is a very important road for us, because the European Medicines Agency is doing a very solid and thorough review of the safety and effectiveness aspects of the candidate vaccines. So this is, I think, in a nutshell, I think the rules that apply, and again, our insistence on making sure that we have safe vaccines. Finally, I would like to add that when it comes to vaccines outside of the EU portfolio, outside this EU vaccine strategy, we have not received any further information or any market authorization at the level of the European Medicines Agency. Thank you.
Thank you. Griselda, you have a question on this issue as well.
Merci beaucoup. Oui, c'est Griselda Pastor de la radio espagnole. Écoutez, sur Pfizer et le vaccin, hier, justement, le ministre allemand de la Santé a demandé une signature rapide en disant qu'il ne parviendrait pas à expliquer à ses citoyens qu'un vaccin fabriqué sur territoire allemand arrive avant à d'autres territoires au monde que chez eux. Est-ce que le risque est un risque réel? Merci.
Mais je crois qu'on vient d'expliquer que justement nous sommes en train de finaliser le contrat Griselda. Il ne faut pas oublier une chose, c'est que ce que la Commission négocie avec ces entreprises pharmaceutiques qui produisent des vaccins, c'est un accord de pré-achat en quelque sorte. Comme nous avons déjà eu l'occasion de le dire, c'est un accord qui réserve pour les États membres des quantités de vaccins au cas où le vaccin serait couronné de succès. Et nous aidons les entreprises à financer les investissements très importants et très rapides qui doivent être faits pour développer ce vaccin. Ensuite, il reviendra donc aux États membres de finaliser l'achat des quantités exactes de vaccins, comme nous l'avons dit au début, et de les obtenir. Voilà. Ok. Nous allons maintenant arrêter sur ce sujet, si vous le voulez bien. Je voudrais passer quelques minutes sur d'autres sujets, car, pour rappel, demain, il y aura Madame Kyriakídis ici en salle de presse, et donc nous aurons l'occasion de revenir, bien entendu, sur le sujet. Et donc, je passe la parole à Mose, qui avait une question, je crois, sur l'état de droit, ou plutôt en rule of law conditionality. Mose, you have the floor. Please be brief.
I try to be very brief since we haven't much time left. As you know, last week there was a provisional agreement between the Council and European Parliament about the rule of law conditionality. And we also learned yesterday that the Hungarian Prime Minister Orban has written a letter to the Commission or to the Council about this. As far as I know, I mean, this new proposal last week deviates a bit from the original proposal submitted by the Commission as regards, let's say, decision-making process by the Council, the voting by qualified majority, and so on. So my question is, how does the Commission assess this change? And do you think that will affect, let's say, the chances of the Council to approve a Commission proposal on adopting or lifting financial measures against the member states which doesn't respect the rule of law? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a question for Balázs.
Indeed. Good afternoon, Mose. So the remarks I would have on this particular question is that the Commission, of course, welcomes the political compromise found between the negotiating teams of the Parliament and the Council last week, based on the Commission's proposal of 2018, linking the use of EU funds and the respect for the rule of law in the Member States. Now, an effective rule of law conditionality is, of course, important to protect both the EU budget and the funding under Next Generation EU. And if you allow me to add a few more remarks, we believe that the agreed text clearly reflects the intended purpose of the Commission's 2018 proposal. For the first time, EU funding will be protected, including preventively against generalized deficiencies in the area of the rule of law. At the same time, final beneficiaries of EU funding in the member state concerned will not be negatively affected by this mechanism. The Commission considers that the text is a good compromise. Overall, the level of ambition of the Commission proposal is maintained in terms of ensuring an effective mechanism to protect the Union's budget.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Balázs today on the issue of rule of law conditionality for the budget? Please only keep your hand raised if this is the case. I see two hands raised. So on rule of law conditionality, Katalin. Katalin, you have the floor, if it's on this.
Oh, no, not this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So no further question for Balázs. So I give the floor to Joe. Joe Barnes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Eric. Just a quick one. Could we have an update from Dan regarding the UK's internal market bill, please? Because the House of Lords obviously voted against the government in mass numbers to remove the clauses that were being deemed to be in breach of the withdrawal agreement. So just to save time, I'll stop there. Cheers.
I mean, Joe, we cannot have a reaction on every development in the UK parliamentary process, as I'm sure you perfectly understand. So unfortunately, no, Dan has no comment to make on this. Thank you. I now move to Noureddine.
Bonjour Eric.
J'ai une question rapide, s'il te plaît. Oui.
Oui, j'ai une question concernant la lutte contre le terrorisme. Il y avait plusieurs idées qui ont été émises ou lancées par hier dans le sommet entre le chancelier Kurz et M. Michel. Parmi ces idées, la coopération renforcée contre les combattants étrangers, la lutte contre l'islam politique et la protection des frontières externes sont les propositions de M. Kurz. J'aurais souhaité, la présidente participe cet après-midi, il y a le débat le vendredi du ministre de l'Intérieur. Quelle pourrait être la contribution de la Commission européenne en relation avec ces trois points? Je te remercie.
Merci Noureddine. Comme tu le comprends bien, et tu l'as dit toi-même, la présidente participe cet après-midi à une réunion spécifiquement sur ce sujet organisée pour l'Élysée, qui sera suivie d'une conférence de presse. Et donc, je t'invite à écouter les propos qu'elle sera amenée à tenir sur ce sujet lors de cette conférence de presse qui sera diffusée sur EBS. Je passe maintenant la parole à Georgi. Georgi, tu as la parole.
Yes, thank you, Eric. It's on Nagorno-Karabakh. A Russian brokered ceasefire has been agreed yesterday, and this agreement seems to seal a situation of the ground which is quite different from the situation before the hostilities started on 27 September. And I was wondering if the Commission has a position on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I pass the floor to Peter.
Thank you. Hi, Georgi. Of course, we noted the announcement on the ceasefire, and we are welcoming the end of hostilities. The EU has repeatedly called for the end of the fighting. We deplore, of course, the loss of life that this confrontation brought so far, and we are assessing the details of this ceasefire in order to be able to understand better its implications and its details. So we will come up later with a more detailed reaction.
Thank you. Anna, we're not a sister organization of the WHO, but it is an important subject, the health situation in Europe. Nevertheless, as you can see, we come to your question, which will be the last of today's press conference. Go ahead.
Thank you. If you allow me, I will ask it in English because what Commission does and what, namely, His Excellency Borgstam, the ambassador in Ethiopia, does to protect the rights of Tigray people, because they are completely shut out of communication. There is no internet there, and it's not first time that internet is used as political weapon to suppress the other opinions. So what are the steps the European Commission, our diplomats, are undertaking to protect the rights of Tigray people?
Thank you. I believe this is a question for Nabila.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Nabila.
Good afternoon, Anna, and thank you for your question. As you know, the EU has been monitoring the unfolding events in Ethiopia, in particular the military action around Tigray, with a deep concern. The HRVP, Borrell, has been reaching out to leaders of the region over the past week. I refer you to his statement of yesterday. He has actually, he spoke to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia. He conveyed the EU's concern for the risk of the integrity of the country and the stability of the region, which should the current situation endure. In this regard, the EU supports any action contributing to the de-escalation of the tensions, return to dialogue, and securing rule of law throughout Ethiopia. He also spoke to Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok of Sudan in his capacity as chairperson of the Intergovernmental Authority of Development, IGAD, and with chairperson of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki Mahamat. And he said that he renewed his EU's support to any initiative of IGAD and the African Union to address the situation. Additional consultations have occurred with other partners in the wider region, and it will continue. As to your question on the internet blackout, we regret that communications are shut off in the Tigray region, with prejudicial consequences for civilians living in Tigray, either Ethiopians or international citizens. Again, the European Union is firmly committed to supporting reforms in Ethiopia initiated under the Prime Minister Abiy government, and reiterates that the only way to ensure the success of this endeavor is to uphold the rule of law while respecting human rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nabila. This brings this midday briefing to a close, and we now move over to the press conference in a few minutes by Executive Vice President Mrs. Vestager. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow for the college readout.